What is up, everybody, to the nations worldwide? This is the Travel Couple Podcast, where we introduce you to couple travelers who offer their advice on how you can travel the world together while earning money, living that digital nomad lifestyle. We are your hosts, Mike Pletz and
Natalie.
Tune in every Wednesday as we interview couples living a digital nomad lifestyle, traveling the world while earning an income, get relationship advice about being on the road with your significant other, and listen how others are struggling and thriving in their personal and business lives, all while traveling the world. This is your one-stop podcast for travel, relationship, and business goals. I want to urge everybody to take a look at our website at tothenationsworldwide.com to see everything that we have on the go there, or visit us at facebook.com/tothenationsworldwide to see more about what's going on at To The Nations Worldwide. In today's episode, we talk with Jenn and Steve, a couple who is about to embark on a summer adventure and hope to someday make a living online that allows them to travel the world. They talk with us about how they set their savings goals, how they've worked to save their money to allow them to travel, and their plans to create a travel lifestyle together. So without further ado, here's our interview with Jenn and Steve. Today we are joined by Jenn and Steve. They are a couple who have saved up their money and are now on a summer adventure. They hope to one day figure out a way to make money online while traveling along the way. You could follow their adventure at instagram.com/sjtravelagain. Hello, Jenn and Steve, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Mike.
Hi,
We're
Mike.
happy to be here.
Thanks for taking time out of your day to join me here, guys. I just want to get us started and just take a minute and tell us a little about yourselves.
Okay, Jenn, do you want to go first?
Well, my name's Jenn. Steve and I are married. We'll be going on 9 years. We'll be married 9 years in September, and we've been dating for 14. I manage a bridal shop now. I do, regular bridal stuff, plus marketing, online stuff, web design, things like that. Steve?
I work for a school district with kids with disabilities. I do behavior intervention, so it's just a big way of saying basically like I help the kids that have behavioral issues, and I mainly deal with a lot of autism.
Gotcha. Awesome. And then, so how did you guys meet? When did this all start?
We met in college, actually. I played softball in college, and Steve was an assistant to the athletic director, so he would travel with us to the games with the athletic director, and that's how we started talking. And then one day, his parents actually got a puppy, and he brought it on campus and was walking it and happened to run into me, which was the first time we actually spoke without, a ton of people around, and that kind of started it all.
Yeah, I just conveniently let the dog a little off the leash there towards her.
Nice, very good. And how long have the two of you been married?
It'll be 9 years in September.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, nice. And did you guys do a destination wedding, or did you guys get married in your hometown?
We actually got married in Ocean City, Maryland. Our birthdays kind of fall on two big events that they have there, a Summerfest and St. Patty's Day weekend. So we used to go down there for our birthdays every year, and then we got engaged there, and we decided we should just get married there. Yeah. So that's what we did.
Yeah. And I come from a big family, so we had a separate home reception, but we had a wedding down there with the close family.
Perfect. Very nice. Okay, so getting into travel, where did your love of travel really start?
Well, it started off, we actually had a thing with taxes where we moved school districts. So I paid taxes, and then we got the money back. So after all this, dealing with the tax agency, I said, let's just use this money to travel. So we went to Key West, Florida. That was our first trip, I think, together, a big one.
Nice.
And then we loved it there. And then we realized that you could fly really cheaply to Europe from the East Coast. So we flew to London, and then we thought we might as well do two countries. So we did Budapest from there, and Budapest really opened our eyes up to traveling.
Yeah.
It was
awesome.
A totally different world. I had been to London and Paris when I was a teenager, and I wanted to get back to London and show Steve London and stuff like that. And then Budapest was just kind of one of those, we saw a really, really cheap flight on EasyJet, and we're like, hey, why not Budapest? Yeah. But it was so amazing. It was the first time that we had been anywhere that we didn't speak the language, and we It was like a totally foreign country. So it really started like, wow, we would really like to do this more often.
So that really started it, yeah.
Definitely. That's awesome. Okay, so getting into talking a bit more about travel here, I like to ask our guests a 2-word question, but for so many couples, it's got such a complex response, and that is, why travel?
Okay, why travel?
In 2 words?
No.
Well,
why not?
Two-word question, but yeah, a 2-word
No.
answer is why not? That's a good answer.
I'll give you a little bit more, Mike. Just like all you see about other countries is in the media. So like I just wanted to kind of like get a different perspective, like see for ourselves. So when we traveled to a lot of different places, we've been trying to go to places at least twice a year. And I kind of just wanted to see for myself if it was like you see on the news, and also like break the stereotype of American travelers, like too, like show them that it's not all what they see on the news, meet local people.
Yeah, we do. That's one thing we do really like to do when we're traveling is meet locals, talk to locals, whether it's our bartender, our Airbnb host, the lady at the bakery. And sometimes it's more smiling and gesturing because we may not know the language very well, but it's amazing what you can learn just, from meeting a lot of different people.
Definitely. Yeah. So where were you last? Where are you right now? And where are you traveling to next?
We were in Krakow, Poland last. That was in November. Right now we're home. We're a little bit outside of Philadelphia. And next is Ireland and Budapest, actually. We're going to head back to Budapest before
nice.
we spend the rest of our summer traveling through the Balkans.
Oh, beautiful. And then what are those destinations that you're going to in the Balkans?
After Budapest, we are in Novi Sad and Belgrade, Serbia, Sarajevo, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Kotor, Montenegro, Sarande, Berat, Tirana, Albania, and then we head to Lake Ohrid, Macedonia, Skopje, Macedonia, Thessaloniki, Greece, Varna, Plovdiv and Sofia, Bulgaria, before heading to Barcelona, and then we'll be home at the end of August for my brother's wedding.
Oh, that sounds like such an amazing trip. That's actually very similar to a trip that Natalie and I had planned out, and just at the last minute we decided not to go. But after naming off all those destinations, do you guys have one place in mind that you're really looking forward to seeing?
Do you have one, Jen? I think Lake Ohrid, for me, I'm really looking forward to that.
Anywhere in Albania. There's something about Albania that I've always found really interesting, so I'm excited to see, especially like Sarande, like right on the beach. And we're not, I wouldn't say we're foodies, but we love trying all the local foods while we're traveling, so it's supposed to be like a pretty major difference between the food cultures and all the places we're visiting, so that's exciting too.
And the reason I was thinking of Lake Ohrid is, I can't think of the term for it exactly, but certain lakes have been around for like hundreds of thousands of years, and that's one of those ones that has been around that long, so there's supposedly like species and things like that you can't find anywhere else.
Oh, gotcha. Nice. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Are you can you go snorkeling there and everything?
I don't know. I know I want to go kayaking. I guess we'll see. I think they do probably dive.
I think they do snorkel, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so then going back to Budapest for the second time, what made you want to do that again?
Well, we were going to Ireland, Dublin. We're doing Galway and Dublin with Steve's family actually first for a week. And it took us a while to figure out where we wanted to go after that. We found a Ryanair flight for, I think it was $45 for 2 tickets to fly to Budapest. So we were like, oh, and we were there in the winter the first time, and there's supposed to be so many awesome stuff that goes on in the summer, festivals and just like little beer gardens that open up by the Danube River and things like that. And it was, with it being our very first trip, there's so many things we would do differently.
Yeah.
We stayed in a hotel the first time, and now we look for like apartments and Airbnbs, and just things we missed the first time because we were, so new at this whole traveling thing. So it was definitely the first first city, I guess, that we really wanted to just do again. Because we just felt like see so much more of it this time.
Mm-hmm. So traveling together, what has been your most rewarding travel experience?
Oh, I would think the most rewarding thing for me is we we sometimes will do these free walking tours, and we'll meet local people, like people that are traveling, but they're from other countries, and you can really talk to them because everybody does the English speaking tour usually.
Yeah.
So we meet all these people from like Israel or Sweden, and then you go out after the tour for a drink with them and you talk. And even just talking to our Airbnb, staying at Airbnbs, a lot of times we were a little nervous at first doing that. So we made sure we got a super host, and which is a highly recommended host. And they like took us around and they told us like all about the local places, just like getting that kind of local feeling about the places.
Yeah.
Jen, did you?
I think, like, just as a couple traveling, what is rewarding about it is seeing some of these places together. Just some of these places that you've seen maybe in pictures or in movies or have wanted to visit for a very long time. I know for me, one of the things I really love doing, with me being, like I said before, in Paris and London as a teenager, was actually seeing his reaction to these places that I had already seen. So the first time he saw, the Tower Bridge and Borough Market and then the Eiffel Tower, and just seeing his reaction to these places that I had already seen and I knew how I felt about them, and then doing some of these things together, like the Acropolis in Athens and things like that were just so incredible to see as a couple and together and get our reactions and things out of it.
Definitely. And just being able to share that with your significant other, and like you said, some of the things that you've already seen and being able to see their reaction to it is just, it is an awesome experience to share with somebody else.
Definitely.
So with travel comes a lot of different experiences. So how about your most awkward, embarrassing, or hilarious travel experience together?
She's gonna love telling this one but I have a problem with foreign bathrooms. I can never figure them out. And do you want to tell this one, Jen, or do you want me to?
There's so many. The first one is in France. They have these like little like bathrooms on the corners of some of the streets. And we had never used one before, so we're standing outside of it, and a guy like walks out of it, and Steve goes to walk in it, and this French man just grabs him and pulls him out of this thing, and he's like, no. Here they self-clean after every single use, and he was about 2 seconds away from getting stuck inside of it while it self-cleaned.
Oh no.
The French are very nice to me. Like everybody says, like the French are like rude, the stereotype. But they were like saving me from lots of different things.
And we were in Krakow, Poland, and we were at a Starbucks, and we were using the bathroom, and there was like a line, and of course it was like one bathroom. And I can hear him trying to get out of this bathroom, and you can hear him like jiggling the door, and there was like a person in front of me, and he's jiggling the door, and finally he gets out, and the person in front of me is like, yay!
Yeah.
Like cheering him on for making it out of the bathroom.
That's good.
Funny experiences revolve around Steve using bathrooms in foreign countries.
Yeah, sometimes I can't tell which one's the men's and women's and that kind of thing, but
yeah.
They're usually very, very nice to me, even though I mess it up.
It does seem like a lot of our stories that we get from people do revolve around bathrooms, so you're definitely not alone there, Steve, and okay. I join you in great company there too. So how about this? How about your worst travel experience together?
Oh, this is a long story. However, so we were flying I'll keep it short. We were flying to France for, we were doing France and Portugal, and we were flying out a couple of days before Christmas. So we were flying from Philadelphia to Paris. Our flight got canceled in Philadelphia. I guess
an hour before it was going to leave.
An hour before it was supposed to leave. So I was like running around like a crazy person trying to figure out what we should do. So they rerouted us through Atlanta. So we were the people like sprinting through the airport to make our flight. We made it by 5 minutes, and then they flew us to the wrong airport. So we had a connecting flight in Paris at De Gaulle, and they flew us into Orly. So we had to take a train. We had to like take the bus to the other airport, which we missed our flight. So we had to pay to rebook our flight to fly to Lisbon, and we made our bus in Lisbon by 1 minute. So it was the most stressful traveling experience so far. Was just this constant like running and barely making connections.
And our lesson learned was we booked separate flights. We need to book it as a package or leave ourselves a day because we thought we could get to France and then get right to Portugal. So we missed the flight, had to rebook it, and then it was just craziness for that whole day. But
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that was a lot of lessons learned in that trip.
And yeah, the reason why I asked that question before this next part is because our next part is going to be talking about relationships while traveling, and there's so many different experiences while traveling that really tests your relationship. But how do you feel traveling has affected your relationship together?
I think it's been for the better. It puts stuff in perspective. Like we always, we were married for a little while before we started traveling, so we knew, stuff that would drive each other crazy and things like that already. But like when you travel, you realize that the small stuff doesn't matter. We really started doing more minimalist type of stuff, like trying to get rid of things we didn't need, not buying things that we didn't, you didn't really need. And we got to know what when we're angry over not having food, I guess hangry, or things like that.
That's mostly me.
Yeah. Jen's good at navigating, and I am not, but I'm good at finding way and bars. So if we get lost, we can always, do that. I think you just get to know each other better, and know how not to let the little stuff like really get you angry at each other.
And just the idea of spending time together. And that's one of the reasons that we're doing this whole long-term travel thing is now when we work, we don't see each other until after 8 o'clock at night. So we're gone in the morning. We don't come home until after 8 o'clock because of our jobs. And just the idea to be able to spend all of our time together is so, it's just something we really want to do. Just being able to see each other more often and just having these crazy experiences and this, massive adventure is something we just really want together.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. So you touched on this a little bit in there, and I want to talk to you about it. But when planning a trip or when you're at your destination, who takes care of what?
I do a lot of the logistical stuff, like how we're getting from point A to point B, where we're that kind of thing. Like I always look up, Rome to Rio is one of my favorite things because I can figure out exactly how we're getting from where we're at to where we're going. And I do a lot of Steve's really good at finding good airfare. So one of the ways we pick a destination we're going to is we just find a cheap flight there. Mm-hmm. But then what we always try to do is hit 2 countries in the same trip. So I'll figure out where we're going next, how we're getting there, how long can we stay in each place? And then I do a lot of the budgeting, how much we're spending each day, how much we want to spend on the trip and things like that. And then Steve is really good at looking up things on forums and blogs and finding these off the beaten path kind of places for us to check out.
A lot of Facebook group kind of things you can find. Like I'll join different groups and then you can find people that are in the areas and you find a lot of tips that way. Like
restaurants and stuff that aren't going to be ones that you're necessarily going to find on TripAdvisor. But, we've had, that's been great experiences alone, just, finding those things we found on random forums and stuff.
Luckily, what Jenn is good at is what I'm not good at.
Right.
So she does all that stuff.
We match well that way.
Yeah, it's always good to have that complementing couple, definitely. So, Jenn, you talked about this a little, or you mentioned this tool a little bit there. Rome to Rio. I love it. I have not yet heard a couple bring it up in one of our interviews. Can you just explain what it is to our audience?
So basically it's an app and you put in where you are and where you want to go, and they will let you know all the ways to get there. And the prices and the links to book tickets and stuff like that. So whether you're busing, you're training, how much it would be to taxi, to fly. And it's invaluable, honestly. We've used it so many times. And actually this summer with us we're not flying we're flying to Budapest, but then we don't get back on a plane until we fly home. So we're spending the entire summer busing and train traveling. And I have looked, everything we're doing has been booked through Rome to Rio.
Yeah, it is such an incredible tool, and it definitely needs to be used. So how about this? The best destination that you would like to recommend for couples out there?
I got this one. We went to Portugal. I would recommend Portugal. We went to and there's a couple different spots I would say to go, but the Algarve in the south, we went in December, which was actually awesome because it was really empty, and you can walk these cliffs. It's beautiful, and then you can go to Lisbon, which is you get your city time in there, and Lisbon's kind of similar to San Francisco with the hills and things like that. And then there's this area about 45-minute bus ride outside of Lisbon called Sintra, and it's like beautiful.
It's like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're walking through a fairy tale, honestly.
So I would think Portugal you can get, and wine is very very cheap and all over the place.
We drink a lot of wine. Also, I know this one's kind of cliche, but we had this like amazing time in Paris. We were there in December. Actually, we went to Portugal and to France in the same trip. But in the evenings, we would just like wander around Montmartre, and they had this like beautiful Christmas market on the Champs-Élysées, and they, everything after dark. And then being December, it wasn't as packed, like wasn't as touristy, so it was kind of empty. So there was these places we were walking through in Montmartre where there was just no one there. It was just, the two of us in these like beautiful old streets, and we just like go into one of these little cafes, and they have like 2-person tables and stuff like that, which was just really great.
Another nice thing too is you can travel at the end of November, which be Thanksgiving here in the U.S., but over in Europe they set up their Christmas stuff already. So if you go at the end of November, you can get cheap flights, and you can still get all the Christmas markets. And
oh yeah, there's something about Christmas markets in Europe. Yeah. Like we've been to quite a few of them. They're amazing. Like great place to get food, and it's just a really cool atmosphere.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so going into some of those destinations there. First off, the Algarves in Portugal. What did you guys get up to when you were there?
A lot of walking. It's kind of cool because you can walk. It's like these cliffs, like these incredible cliffs, like beachside cliffs. And the neat thing is you can actually walk above the cliffs, and then they have these like kind of rickety staircases that go down onto the beach, and you can then walk along the beach at the bottom of the cliffs. And some parts you have to wait until the water kind of goes out a little bit, and then you're like running along the cliffside to like make it to the next like little beach. But we just like picnicked, and we were completely by ourselves. Like we found these little alcoves that were just like these little beaches with nobody else there, and you're just surrounded by these like massive cliffs and like your own private little beach. It was so nice.
And the weather was still warm. It was like 60 degrees, 65 in the day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Different from the U.S., which we found in most of Europe, is there's no open container. So the fact that we can just drink anywhere we want is really convenient.
Yeah, definitely.
Wine or take beers to these like really amazing places and just like sit there and have a drink, which is it's pretty great too.
The city in the Algarve we went to was actually Lagos.
Lagos, yeah.
Okay, and then it's famous for like its wine region there, isn't it?
That's the north.
Or is that?
Porto.
That's the north. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They have port wine in the north, but you can find that everywhere, and it's really good if you've never had it. But
that was the one place, the one city we didn't have enough time to get to, but we want to do it when we go back sometime. Yeah. Porto.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They have really great seafood in the south coast though, and it's known for being like we actually went to Vasco da Gama's tomb. That's in Lisbon. But it's like the before they really started exploring out to be like the end of the world. People thought that's where the world ended. Was in Lagos. So we were like sitting on these cliffs, and it has like this beautiful clear water. It's kind of where the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean meet. Yeah. Right there at the south coast of Portugal. So it was just really beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. And then going to Paris. So you said something about the Christmas market. Is there anything that couples, like a certain area in Paris or a certain place that couples need to go and visit that you'd recommend?
Montmartre and the Latin Quarter. But we so one of the really cool things we did is we didn't actually go into the Louvre, but we went there after dark, and the whole thing is like lit up, the pyramid and all the buildings, and there was nobody else there. We got pastries from this really, really old pastry shop in the Latin Quarter and took them to this area. And we just sat in this little alcove totally by ourselves, surrounded by the Louvre, and we had pastries and wine. Like, it was crazy.
I know the pastry place is actually on our Instagram. I think you put a picture up of that.
I
But
did.
I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's where Marie Antoinette used to get her pastries, right?
Yeah, they still have the same ones they used to make for her.
So if your listeners Google
Oh, wow.
that, they'll find it.
Okay, for sure.
Sodor, I'm pretty sure, something like that. But yeah, they actually are pastry chefs from Austria that Marie Antoinette brought to Paris. And there's this like thing called the baba arum, which is one of the things she used to get, and it's a pastry filled with cream and it's covered in rum.
Oh, nice. That sounds good. Yeah. Okay, is there any other advice you'd like to give travel couples out there, people that are wanting to get on the road?
One of the things I would tell people is, if you're going to do something like you're going to be going on a bus or things like that, and to make it a little more comfortable, it's going to be like $10 more, or to get into like some kind of site you want to see is a little bit over your budget, but not that much. Just spend the extra money, because sometimes getting a bus with air conditioning or maybe Wi-Fi or more comfortable seats, it's worth it, like to just be comfortable and not be like at each other's throats, miserable when you get to the destination. So you can always drop your budget down the next day to make up for it. Don't nickel and dime yourself too bad when you're trying to budget that it's not fun and that you can't enjoy yourself. The other thing is, I would ask questions. I would tell people that are traveling, go online, and like once you find one thing, you go down a rabbit hole of like you'll find maybe you're searching for a certain location or people that live in a certain area, like expats. And once you find that, you find all these other things and all these other tips and podcasts. And really, a lot of listening to podcasts is how we started off, like finding out about things. And then, we would hear guests and we'd check out their sites. And then, most people are very open to answering your emails or, even meeting you. A lot of people will just meet up with you if they're in your area and show you around. Mm-hmm. If Jen has anything to add?
No, I like what he said about the budgeting thing. Definitely, we have found we're not like, I would say, like major budget travelers. We're not staying in like hostel dorm rooms, but leaving a little bit of extra money open to have those amazing experiences in places like you don't want to go there and not do awesome things. You don't want to have to sit in your room the whole time and eat grocery store food. Like have your one nice dinner out, or spend the extra $10 to take the really nice bus as opposed to the really bad bus with no air conditioning, and it just kind of enhances your experience a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely great advice. And I did just go through your Instagram and found the patisserie. I don't want to pronounce it improperly, but Storer? Does that sound right?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah? Since 1725, yeah, it looks pretty amazing. Awesome.
So France was not as expensive as people think.
We've actually found ways to budget everywhere we've gone, whether it has been a place that is pretty much known for being a budget location or a place that's kind of known for being overly expensive. I think the place we had the hardest time kind of keeping to our budget was Stockholm, Sweden, because everything there is expensive.
So I've heard. Yeah.
One of our things that we do when we, like we said about we two different countries on a trip, is if we have to hit up, a lot of the really inexpensive flights into Europe from the east coast of the US are into bigger cities, which tend to be more expensive. So if we're flying into London or we're flying into Paris, the second location on our trip will be a more budget location. So like when we flew into Paris, we then stayed in Portugal for the majority of our trip because it is more of a budget-friendly location.
Gotcha. Yes. Excellent advice, guys. And just going back to what you were saying about, spending a little bit more money to get that comfort level that you need is really going to save, showing up really tired at your next destination or just being uncomfortable can really put a strain on not only your relationship, but your time in a place. So that's really good advice that you gave there. Now, into our last part of our podcast, we like to talk about how couples are trying to make travel more of their lifestyle. And like you guys were saying, you went into your work a little bit there, but then you talked about how you guys have saved up the money to kind of take the time this summer to travel. Do you guys have any advice for couples out there that are trying to make travel more of a lifestyle, and how you guys actually went about saving your money to be able to travel this summer?
I would say the first thing we did was kind of cut out unnecessary expenses. Like we didn't have to go out to eat every week, and kind of budgeting at the grocery store, like, we're going to set, this is our set limit for the week for groceries. And, do we really need that as opposed to do we just want it?
Some
things
simple
like that.
things to do are like, we cut out TV. We just use the internet and we stream, and that cuts down your cost. You can also change your phone plan. We were on Verizon years ago, and it was like crazy compared to what we moved to Boost, which is on Sprint, and then we moved to T-Mobile. It was probably half the price. Those kind of things, you don't need your phone might not be the iPhone 10 or whatever the newest one is, but it's a trade-off you're making, and that adds up. It might be like $50 a month here, $50 there, but that adds up. We also, we pretty much cut back to one car, and so we only have insurance for one car. We try to walk. Yep. We live in an area where we can kind of walk to the grocery store, so we try to walk. For work, I work a separate job at night and during the day, so I have to drive. So gas does hit us pretty hard, but if you can take public transportation, that's not quite as available in our area. Anything else you were thinking, Jen, that we have cut down on? We go to the local market instead of grocery store for our fruits and vegetables a lot. That's a more reasonable way to do it if you live close to like a farmer's market.
And just like I said, like cooking in a lot as opposed to going out to eat. Like we would be, pretty common, like on a Friday night or a Saturday night going, there's like a pretty big town, like about 25 minutes from here. And we'd be down there, and before you know it, you're dropping $150 between dinner and gas. And, we stop at Target, and then we go to Barnes and Noble, and then we do this. And, cutting that stuff out, the money you do quickly starts to add up. Just cutting out unnecessary expenses first is a good way to start.
I would say start slow, because a lot of people, when they see, oh my gosh, I'm cutting this, I'm cutting that, it gets to be too much. But if you slowly, like we kind of did it over 2 years, and we slowly accumulated more and more, stuff by doing it.
I know you touched on it, but we are doing this crazy trip this summer, but a long-term goal would be for us to be on the road for a couple of years. So, banking as much as we could. That way we're not, we're going to try everything we can about making money online. And, we have joined all these groups and stuff of like trying to learn from other people. But we didn't want that to be the main stressor on us. We have to be in our place for 6 hours today to be working because we have to make money to be able to stay on the road. We wanted to have a cushion that we could just do this. And also, I don't know how many people talk about this, but we wanted a cushion for when we come back, for when we're done.
Right.
So we're not in a place where we have to quickly find jobs and we quickly have to do this or move in with our parents for months and months, or, we wanted to have a really nice cushion to come back to, that we have money to live on when we're done traveling.
Yeah, so that will be our long-term plan. And another big thing is to try to remove debt. I know some people probably have student loans that they're not going to be able to get rid of, in the time they want to travel. We were luckily able to get rid of, we'll actually be debt-free in another couple of days. But if you can't get completely debt-free, I would say at least get it down to a manageable amount and budget that, put that into your budget for the month. So that whatever you're paying out for your student loans or things like that, it's already coming out of your budgeting. You're already budgeting for it.
Okay, so your savings, you guys, how long did it take you to get to your set goal, your set amount that you wanted to get to so that you knew you could travel? How long did that kind of take you?
I think about 2.5 years. Not exactly.
About 2.5 years. And that we have been traveling about twice a year on vacations and using vacation days and over holidays and stuff, about twice a year. So
so we weren't going
bare bonesing it for the last 2.5 years. We've been traveling as much as we can still within that time. But did you have something?
Nope.
Oh.
I think that's just like a great goal to set yourself for. I think 2.5 years is really good, and it kind of shows people that it does take time to accumulate your savings in order to go traveling. But you do also have that time frame in between there that you can go traveling a couple times a year. but as long as you're cutting down your expenses and you have a goal set in mind that you're trying to reach, it does take a little time to get there, but you'll get there. And I think that's a really good takeaway for people. Now, did you guys set a goal? Did you guys say this is the amount we want before we start traveling?
Well, there's a Nomadic Matt had a book we read a while ago, like $50 a day kind of thing, a budget. And so we had figured we could probably like travel a year on maybe like $25,000 to $30,000 if we were doing like cheaper countries and things like that. Mm-hmm. So we were trying to get to $50,000 at least, and like between $15,000 and $20,000 in savings for, so we had a buffer there to come back. And that was basically the number we were looking at, because we kind of figured when we travel, if we travel a year, we would like to have a little bit more time than a year.
Mm-hmm. So basically, we're hoping to go for 2 years on a little over 50,000, which is where we're at now.
Perfect. Okay, and then getting into you guys going out on the road and trying to establish some sort of income that's coming in. What are you guys going to do about that? Do you guys have a plan for that or anything?
I'm not exactly sure. Jenn actually was good at writing in college. I'm a little terrified of writing a blog because my grammar and writing was not that good. But I mean, we have plenty of ideas for articles and things. I might just have to have Jenn clear them up. I'm kind of hoping maybe some video of YouTube type of things. Yep. We're kind of hoping that if we give ourselves enough of a buffer there of money, that we can try stuff, and we're not going to be desperately needing it to hit right away. We can build it up. I'd like to do some video, and I think Jenn wants to do the writing a lot, and I'll come up with some articles.
And we also looked into things, like affiliate links and sponsorships, mm-hmm. and even a little bit into what is it called?
Well, I know
where you can have people who kind of sponsor your trip. What is that?
I forget the term for that is, but I know one of the other things too is there's a site called Trusted House Sitters, which I signed us up for, where you can pet sit and house sit, and that can knock a lot of the cost off for accommodations if you can. We haven't used it yet, but we're planning on using it, and I think right now it might have been just recently it was 50% off. So if any of your listeners were thinking about it, it might be a good time to try it.
Definitely, yeah. So those are great ideas. Creating content to start to build an audience, and you guys it seems like you have a great complement of each other of having a writer and a video creator in getting into that. Now, what kind of got you into this world of maybe deciding to create some sort of content around your travels?
A lot of it was when we would look for locations, we would watch YouTube videos. Yeah, I can't even think of all the ones we subscribed to, but I think we just checked out somebody who was on your podcast not too long ago. Words for Winos actually had a YouTube video on Ireland we were just watching.
Oh yeah.
But the Vaga Brothers were a big one, I think, when we first started.
Goats on the Road.
And we just watched all these videos, and we're like, oh my God, people are just, traveling and being able to video, and it was just...
It kind of started this whole thing, maybe we could do this, just because we get to this point at the end of a trip where you're sort of, when you're gone for maybe 10 days or 15 days or whatever, and you're you have this I don't want to go home yet kind of feeling, and we wanted to get to a point where we didn't have that anymore, where we didn't have that oh, we don't want to go home yet, or you're leaving in 4 days and you're kind of in your head going, we only have 4 days left, we only have 3 days left, and then you start to, I don't want to say it diminishes your enjoyment of your trip, but it puts you in a position where you're sort of you have to go back, mm-hmm. and then you get to this thing where you start to look at where you're going to go next, but it might not be for 6 months or 8 months from where you are now. So to get to a point where you could just, go, and that's kind of what our goal was, just to we want to do it till we get tired of it, not the other way around where we have to leave.
And there's a whole world of these things there's side hustle podcasts and all this kind of different thing where people are doing all kinds of things. And we haven't looked into some of this stuff, but people do these Amazon kind of things. It's a whole world of you. Once you find one thing, you find all this other kind of stuff. And some people are even working in Australia, I guess, at the Workaway. Is that one we saw? Yeah,
right.
Some of this stuff we're a little too old for now. That we can't get a working visa.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty big world, and once you get into some of the podcasts, it just uncovers another podcast that you can listen to, or audiobooks. It's a never-ending world, and there's so much out there for you guys to get into, and I'm really excited to follow along with your journey. You two sound like a great couple, and it's going to be quite an adventure for you. Do you guys want to leave our listeners with how we can find you and follow along with your journey?
Sure, guys. You can just look us up for right now, look us up on Instagram. It's SJ Travel Again. And if you type in Steve and Jenn Travel Again, right, they'll be able to get pretty much to our blog.
Yeah, we'll have that started just in a couple of days. We wanted to wait till we actually got on the road and really started traveling to be writing on that. But of course, if you follow us on Instagram, we'll have the links to the blog and the YouTube and all of that kind of stuff as we start going.
Yeah, check us on Instagram, and then we'll link everything else there when we get it all up and running.
Perfect. Well, there you have it. Jenn and Steve sharing their travel stories with you today on the To the Nations Worldwide Travel Couple Podcast. I want to say a special thank you to our guests. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time out of your day. Now, if there's anything else you want to leave our audience with, or anything you want to give our audience before you go, now's your chance.
Well, guys, I just say, don't wait, just travel. If you want to go somewhere, you want to see something, there'll never be a perfect time. And just go see the places you want to see.
And do it with the person you love, because it really is the best thing.
That's right, yeah.
Traveling with your significant other, just having those experiences together is totally priceless.
Thank you to all of our listeners out there to the nations worldwide. We cannot express our appreciation enough for having you listen to today's episode. Visit us at travelcouplepodcast.com/20 for this episode's show notes and learn more about Jenn and Steve. Leave a comment on the page. We'll be sure to get back to you. If you need be so kind, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. This helps us consistently deliver you valuable information on the world of travel. This is Mike Pletz and
Natalie,
hoping you have a wonderful adventure out there to the nations worldwide.